Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to The Bite with Jim and Stan. I'm Jim.
I'm Stan.
And
We're here to talk about fishing.
We're talking about fishing today. We're doing this podcast. Always wanted to do it. We are avid fishermen. Been fishing for pretty much our whole life, and fish a lot in Virginia and Eastern North Carolina. I started fishing when I was probably 5 years old. I've been fishing ever since. Fresh and salt water. Didn't go to college for 2 years. Just fished every day, and then had the decision I had to either get a job or go to college, so I just took the college route. And but I never lost my passion for fishing. It is absolutely my favorite thing to do of any activity, and I'm as passionate now about it as I was when I was a kid. Whether it's kayak fishing or in a center console or a john boat or bank fishing, I just can't get enough of it. Fresh salt water, doesn't matter. Mainly artificials. Not a big electronics guy. Mainly artificials. Don't throw a lot of live bait unless I'm catfishing. If I'm monster catfishing on the James, which we'll cover that later, then I will throw get some live shad and cut them up. Yeah, some cut bait. So that's a little bit about me. Stan?
I grew up fishing. My dad taught me out in Southwest Missouri, trout fishing. Always liked fishing in ponds. Basically, cut my teeth there, and then I got bit by the smallmouth bug in the mid-'80s. Did that for a long time, then started tournament fishing for largemouth. Then, as I progressed, started working at Green Top and really got the saltwater bug, fishing for flounder and trout. Anyway, now we both like to chase basically anything that swims.
Stan writes the fishing report for Green Top that you see every Friday.
Every week.
That comes out, so he knows a lot about what's going on. He is an incredible resource to have. A perfect example. Yesterday, I took my daughter, who is on spring break from Virginia Tech. We took the john boat up to Watkins Landing. We're fishing the north side, right across from Watkins, fishing laydowns and that sort of thing. Camille's throwing a spinnerbait and a chatterbait. I'm throwing a spinnerbait. Nothing. I call Stan. Stan knows more about that section of river than probably anybody in Virginia. Probably not everybody, but Stan fishes a lot, so He knows that stretch of river very, very well. So he said, go upriver about a quarter of a mile from the ramp, and you'll see a little creek coming in. We motor up there with the trolling motor. My daughter catches a 3.5 pound smallmouth on her second cast on a chatterbait. That's what this guy does. He just knows that river like the back of his hand. So he's a tremendous resource. So in this podcast, in the comment section, oh, by the way, we have 0 followers.
And hopefully this is the first of many podcasts.
And we have 0 subscribers. So we're hoping to make this something really cool.
Hopefully that'll change.
Yeah, hopefully that'll change. But he's a really good resource as far as he's fished tournaments all over Virginia, from lakes and river. He's done it all. He does most of it without electronics. Most of what he does is just old school. Just knows how the fish are, where they're going to be, certain water levels, certain times of the year, and all that. So he's a great resource. Hopefully, this podcast will give you all a lot of good information on where the current bite is happening right now, fresh and salt water. That's the objective of this podcast, is to cover what species are active right now in lakes and rivers in Virginia, Eastern North Carolina, mainly in Virginia, and in the lower Chesapeake Bay. So that's a little bit about us, okay? What we're talking about now, this time of year in Virginia, is pre-spawn, okay?
For freshwater.
Freshwater, pre-spawn, and saltwater. I don't think there's anything spawning yet. I think the flounder are probably done spawn. Flounder spawn in the fall and the winter offshore. So the game in saltwater right now is tog.
Yep.
Also known as blackfish.
Yep.
Tautog or tog, speckled trout, and red drum. That's primary. Not to say you can't catch a rockfish out there right now, or a black drum or something like that, but primarily right now
Yep.
like Lynn Haven, Rudy Inlet, Eastern Shore of Virginia creeks, we're talking about specks and red drum, puppy drum.
Mainly puppy drum as well. Last week's warm weather really set the drum on fire, and like Lynn Haven and Rudy,
They're catching them.
catching them really nice.
Yeah, and they're catching them on bottom rigs with shrimp and mullet, and they're
Swim baits.
catching them on swim baits, soft plastics, specks. That cold snap we had in December and January
Stunned them pretty good.
Stunned. There were a lot of fish kills with the speckled trout. They're not as hardy as the redfish, and a lot of those didn't make it through it. So, and that usually happens every other year. So
Yeah, it's the circle of life.
We get a cold snap, and those speckled trout just can't get out of that skinny water quick
They can't
enough.
tolerate the cold temperatures.
No, but they will chase. The speckled trout are caught on minnows, or if you're fishing live bait under a popping cork or just live line,
Shrimp.
or shrimp, bottom rigs of shrimp or just shrimp, and like mirror lures, jerk baits, soft plastic, same thing.
Paddle tails mostly.
Yeah.
Bass assassin is probably the most popular.
And again, Stan and I firmly believe probably the best lure selection. Again, we don't do a whole lot of live bait fishing. Okay, we know that's probably the best way to catch them. We just don't do it. But as far as artificials go, a 1/4 ounce leadhead jig with a paddle tail
Yep.
is like
Money.
it's money. It really is. You don't need to really overcomplicate it. Okay, so that's pretty much a saltwater game right now. Specks and reds, and then the tog or tautog, which are they're
Structure oriented.
structure oriented. They're going to be in the reefs on the eastern. I mean, in the lower bay, the wrecks,
The
bridge
islands
spots,
of the bridge tunnel.
the CBBT, the bridge tunnel, all the pilings along the bridge tunnel. That's where the togs are going to hang out. They're going to find the nastiest cover they can find, bury themselves in it. You're going to lose a lot of rigs, okay? If you don't know how to tie a tog rig or a blackfish rig, YouTube it.
Yep, Google
Go
it.
to the search bar, hit tog rig, and they're very easy to tie. It's usually a double hook, top and bottom dropper loop rig with shrimp, clam, crab if you can get it
Crab
this
is the
time of
best.
year. Crab's probably the best, but I've seen guys out there at the concrete ships on the Eastern Shore and just whacking them on shrimp. So we do think crab is the best.
You get around them,
but get some
anything smelly, you
Yeah.
can usually catch them.
Yeah. So and it's a vertical game. You're not casting out
Nope.
for tog. You are getting over top of that cover or structure, and you are dropping straight down.
Yep.
And you're going to be in the rocks, and you're going to lose rigs. It's frustrating, but they're
And
delicious.
keep a tight line because
Yeah.
when you get that loose line, that slack line, and starts to get away from you, that's when you're going to get hung
Yeah.
up.
Just say if you stay vertical, there's less chance you're going to get hung up. Okay.
And be careful when you go to lip those togs. You don't want to lip them because they do have teeth.
Yeah, they have teeth.
So net them, unhook them. Be careful.
Pretty much a saltwater game right now. As it starts warming up, the big bull drum are going to come into the shoals.
Yep.
The black drum are going to be right there. The flounder are going to start moving in from the offshore wrecks, and they're going to start moving in typically on the Eastern Shore first, up near
April, May.
Wachapreague and anywhere from Smith Island down at the mount entrance of the bay all the way up to the state line, Chicotee. And we'll cover that as the season goes as we get on further up into April and May. The freshwater game, we're going to break it up into like rivers and lakes, okay? So freshwater right now, we are talking pre-spawn.
Yep.
That's the name of the game. That's the only thing you need to know right now is pre-spawn. And pre-spawn is dictated by water temperature and the moon. And we're not going to get all
Length of daylight.
Length of daylight, water temperature. And we're not going to Carl Sagan out on you with a bunch of moon stuff, but it does affect the fish. Okay.
Yep.
Start with the rivers. Let's start with upper river, like
The New, the James, the Shenandoah.
the New, the James, and the Shenandoah. The first thing you need to know when you're fishing those three bodies of water, please do not just load up the kayak or the John boat or whatever and go. Please check the water levels of all three rivers. You can Google Shenandoah.
stations.
Yeah, there are these gauges and stations along the New River. Not so many in the New in Virginia. There's one at Radford, And I think that they've got some in maybe Pembroke. Certain sites do near Blacksburg, but the main one is Radford. And if you look at the Radford chart, it's always doing this because they release water from the dam.
From Clater Lake.
From Clater Lake. So it's kind of squirrely when you see it fluctuating like that. Usually it's a much subtle, like you look at Buchanan in Virginia on the James River, it'll show the current water level and they'll show a prediction of where it's going to go in the next couple of days based on the weather forecast. Like if we're going to get an inch of rain in 2 days, well, 3 days after that, you're going to see a big spike. You're not going to want to fish these rivers unless you're a guide or a pro and you know these rivers like the back of your hand and it doesn't matter to you. But I think the perfect water temperature, water, the height, the gauge,
level.
The flow, water level is around, I'm going to say 3 to 4 feet.
At Buchanan.
Okay, at Buchanan. So if you use Buchanan as a gauge, now look, it could not rain to Buchanan or up from Buchanan and down. That's going to change things. But when that water level is around 3 to 4,
especially on the upper end of 3, around 4, it's good.
It's really good. It's not gin clear, but it's clear. It's got a little stain to it, and it just seems to be better. Okay, when that water is gin clear, it's hard to catch. I'm not gonna say it's hard, but it's harder to catch fish when the water's gin clear versus it's slightly stained. Okay, so please pay attention to the water levels on the rivers. Don't waste a day when you get there and you go, oh my God, this is raging. It's at 11 feet. You didn't know, and you just wasted a day. Where you could have went to Lake Anna instead or some other place that wasn't affected by the rainfall. Okay, so that being said.
Now, a lot of these rivers, though, need to be navigated by a jet boat or drift boat like a raft.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can't just go in anywhere and put in a prop John boat.
No.
You can, but you may be very limited to the section in which you're going to be able to run and be able to fish.
And we learned that the hard way. We took my John boat to the New River and couldn't run rapids, class 1s and 2s, because we didn't have a jet boat. We had a regular
prop boat
outboard. And so we were limited to a quarter-of-a-mile section of water because that's all we could get to. You're not going to go down these rapids in a John boat and not get back up. So you can float them, you can raft, fishing raft, kayak, canoes, whatever. But just be careful. Obviously, always have a PFD and leave somebody a float plan. Those rivers do not mess around. So be very, very, hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and but always be cautious when you're on that river.
That being said, right now the smallmouth bite is on fire.
It's ridiculous right now.
It's very good. Spinnerbaits, chatterbaits, crawfish crankbaits. I like swim baits. They'll even hit those. So it's from now till towards the end of April. It's going to be really, really good. You want to target a big smallmouth? Now is a really good time.
Yep. And we're not going to cover. And we are going to cover this at some point, but we're not talking about trout fishing right now because I don't really trout fish. I don't think Stan trout fishes, but I know I know there are a lot of good trout waters in the mountains. Yes. And I've got a neighbor, shout out to my man Doug, but the trout bite in Virginia is outstanding. The Shenandoah, the New, and the James right now, it's a smallmouth game, and they are chasing. Those fish are chasing, pre-spawn, and they're going to be in shallow water, are they not, Stan?
Yeah, they are. And normally they'll go to spawn around May, end of April, May. Sometimes you catch them in late April and they've already spawned out, but most of the time, no. So and that's the game right now. It's there, as he said earlier in this broadcast, that he went out yesterday and they caught some dandies. So,
and they're right on the bank.
Yep.
Right. Not saying you can't catch them out in the middle, but those fish are they're looking to spawn here shortly, so they're shallow. Right. They're shallow. And the Shenandoah and the New and the James, we're talking about the upper sections in the mountains. Yes, yep. They're almost. I'm not gonna say they're identical, but they're
very similar.
They're very, very similar. Live bait, it's hellgrammites, crawdads, chubs, mad toms. Those are mad toms. Apparently, are like
usually
candy.
That's a warm weather. Yeah, you can find that.
Artificials, like Stan said, jerk baits, spinner baits, chatter baits,
jigs.
That's the upper section of the river. Then we have the tidal section of the James, and in this we're going to include the Chickahominy.
Yep.
Okay, this is below the fall line, down to Williamsburg-ish.
Yeah.
Till it starts getting a little
come in
salty.
right above Williamsburg.
Yeah. The Rappahannock.
Yep.
From what, Fredericksburg down to
Fredericksburg, probably
How far
down to
down?
say Little Falls, which is, yeah, I'm not sure. It's not too far downstream from Fredericksburg. I can't give you an exact, but
how far down?
15 miles, easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the Potomac from DC limits. How far down?
I would say probably
To the mouth of the bay? No, probably not. that
No,
far.
probably to like Potomac Creek.
Okay. We're talking about tidal, okay? These are all affected by the tides from the bay and the ocean, okay? So it's the Pamunkey,
Mattaponi.
the Mattaponi, Potomac, the Rappahannock,
York.
Chickahominy, the York, and the James. Right now, it's all about shad, right, Stan?
It's about the shad. They're running up. They're not. I wouldn't say they're not at the fall line, in good numbers yet. Both in Fredericksburg and in Richmond, they are starting to catch them. But normally around the end of March, the first week of April, is it. One of the things that I've said for many years is, if somebody came to me and they haven't caught a lot of fish and they wanted to have fun and just catch fish all day, I would take them to the James River in April because it's just wide open, and when the shad get in there, it's like it excites all the other game fish. So,
And if you want to know when to go, just take a ride down 95 and go over the bridge.
Yeah,
and
14th Street Bridge.
You will
and
see,
95.
if the shad are running, you will see all the boats out there, and the people from, you can bank fish down there too.
yeah, on the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not, you can't bank fish off the bridge, but you can definitely.
You can. And you'll get bombarded if you go up there by boat, so you just be careful.
I'm
with
talking
that.
about the 95 bridge.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You
not
don't want to fish on the 95 bridge. But you can bank fish. There's certain sections down there that are open to the public.
Yep.
Just got to Google it and research it. You get near
Ancaros.
Ancaros, and then on the other side, what's that? Rockets Landing.
Rockets Landing.
There's
Yep.
people fishing just upriver from that.
And also with the shad, you're going to have the white perch. They're starting to come in as well.
Now those shad, are they catchable from the time they're coming from where?
They're coming from the ocean.
Okay.
They're coming into spawn.
So you can chase them the whole way up, can you not?
Yes, you can. And obviously the catches are going to occur downriver first.
Right. So like right now, could you catch them down near the mouth of the Appomattox? Are they?
Yes.
Okay? So
Yes,
in that
and
section,
they catch them up in the Appomattox.
okay. And we forgot to talk about the Appomattox, but that would be part of the lower the tidal. That is a tidal section. So another great, and the walleye fishing in the Appomattox apparently is really good too. I don't know what time of the year. I think it's probably spring or early or late spring, early summer. But the Appomattox is a great body of water as well. So shad's the deal.
Shad and
And
white perch, with mostly shad.
with shad, and what are we using, Stan?
I like a spoon, like a 00 or a 0 spoon with a 1/4 ounce
Tiny.
egg sinker.
Tiny spoons.
I have a little leader, probably 14 inches long, and you want to get the cadence down. And once you do, you figure out exactly how they want it presented. You can catch them every cast. 4 6-pound line, monofilament or fluorocarbon. I've seen days where they definitely outfish braid, so you need a leader. The white perch, you're going to want to fish the bottom. Worms, cut bait. If you catch the shad, cut them up into little pieces, and you'll catch all the perch you want. So it's very rapid catches a lot of times. And so the farther you get up to James, like around the fall line, 14th Street Bridge, it's narrower, and so it'll be crowded, and the water's shallower. But they're going up there, and that's why so many people go, because they're easier to catch, because it concentrates the fish in a narrower part of the river.
And you're going to lose rigs.
You're gonna lose rigs.
If you're bank fishing, even if you're boat fishing, you're going to lose rigs. That river is just littered with rocks
It's
and
all rock.
snags and everything.
Yep.
I don't throw a cast net in that river anymore.
But you need to check the regulations on which ones you can keep. You cannot keep
All right.
blueback herring
All right,
at all.
Hold on. So what are we talking about? It's coming in there. Blueback.
It's,
Herring.
well, I haven't done that in quite a while, but I'm sure they're still there.
Okay.
But hickory shad,
Hickory shad.
and
Now,
American shad.
Hickory shad is the little tarpon, right?
Little tarpon, me and some friends of mine, we like to call them James bottom tooth. They have an underbite. That's how you can identify them. When the bottom lip sticks past the upper lip, those you can keep. When they come together, That's an American shad. You need to let those go.
That's a hefty fine.
You'd be better off getting caught with a dead body than you would be. Or rockfish. Don't keep the rockfish right now.
They're in there. The rockfish are chasing the shad up the river right now. You can catch them, but you got to throw them back in the drink. And they're big. They're big fish. These are ocean fish that are typically
they will
coming
be in the 40-pound range.
They're going to be big stripers that you can catch from the bank. We have done it before. You can catch these rockfish, but you got to throw them back. It's catch and release right now.
Yep.
Okay, don't get caught with a rockfish. And trust me, there are game wardens down there, and they're in street clothes. Okay, you're not gonna pull up, and you're gonna know it's a game warden. Some of them are, but some of those game wardens are gonna be in street clothes. You have to throw those fish back. If you don't, you're playing with fire. It's gonna be a hefty fine.
And if you're uncertain about which species of shad you have, I would recommend just throwing
throw it back.
You know, a lot of people, they harvest the roe, or they use them for cut bait. But you know, I know it's a big thing, big old school thing where they, you know, shad roe and eggs or bacon or whatever. But you know, that's mostly the harvest.
If you don't know what a shad dart is, Google it. You go to Green Top and get shad darts. You can get them on Amazon. You probably get them anywhere. They're from a 32nd of an ounce to
about an eighth
or half, or sometimes a quarter, depending on the size of the fish and the current and depth and all that good stuff. What you need to do is they're not real expensive.
Nope.
So you want to get a box with a bunch of them. You're going to lose them. I'm telling you, you are going to.
A bunch of different colors.
And a bunch of different colors, because they are really picky one day. What works one day won't work the next day. But get different colors and different sizes. Have it just almost like a bee box, you know, for arts and crafts, and just have a bunch of different ones ready. And there's a lot of good articles online about shad fishing in the James River. Google them.
It's very fun.
It is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. And if you catch a legal shad, again, we're not going to tell you. We know American shad is illegal and rockfish, but I don't know with herring. There's so many different species of shad and herring coming up that river. If you can keep certain ones and you use them for cut bait, I'm telling you, you're going to catch some big catfish and some big stripers. Yep. We caught catfish up to 70 pounds down there on shad. Okay. On mud shad, not American shad. But that leads me to another segment, which is the catfish, the blue catfish. The catfish bite is usually pretty consistent year round. You can't go wrong. Now look, I've caught them on crankbaits. I've caught them on spinnerbaits. A blue cat or a channel will chase artificials. Okay?
Rattle traps. Yeah.
Rattle traps. It's all there. But the best way to catch catfish is with bottom rig with fresh cut bait.
Yep.
Okay. Doesn't get any better.
Eels work well too, but I prefer shad.
Yeah. And you hear some people say, I've caught them on hot dogs. That's fine. I've heard that story a million times. They catch them down there in the river. They've caught them over 100 pounds down there. They are monstrous. It used to be a citation was 30 pounds, I think.
30 pounds, yep. It used to be 20, and then they raised it to 30. So I'm not sure what
it should be 50 now. There are so many giant catfish in that river. Then we have the largemouth bass, which is what everybody chases down there. Yep. They're in pre-spawn mode, the largemouth bass.
On both the James, the Chick, the Appomattox.
All those tidal rivers.
Yep. Spinnerbaits are really good, especially with the shad in the river. It's pretty hard to beat a spinnerbait if you're chasing largemouth. On some of those days when it gets tough, slows down, crawl or rattle trap. A jig, of course, is going to be very good. And I like to target the flats, especially in the Chick. Shallow flats are going to warm up really, really good, and that's where you're going to have your active fish. They're roaming these flats looking for the shad.
Is it true that it's when you're fishing the lower James, it's tidal, so that water fluctuates, 3 feet?
Sometimes, yep.
2.5 to 3 feet?
Yeah, 1.5 to 3 feet. Yep.
Okay, from depending on moon phases and all that.
Yep.
Good stuff. And wind. That's going to be a segment I'm sure we're going to cover this, where these fish are at different stages of the tide. We're talking about being consistent here, so we got to be. We always want to know when high. What's the level of the water right now? Is it rising? Is it falling? There are a lot of people who will chase the tide. They say that the fishing's best on a falling tide, so they will buzz on down the river and chase a falling tide all the way down the river.
Yeah, and run up as they go.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't get discouraged if you go out and you don't catch anything, okay? Because it happens to us.
That's fishing.
That's fishing. We're not going to go into live scope, but if you're using live scope,
that's going to solve the equation a lot quicker.
You are probably the biggest anti-scopers that ever walked the planet. Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Used it. It is a very useful tool.
Yeah.
I didn't use it to its full potential, but it's a different game.
If you're in the scope, that's great, but just don't send me a bunch of pictures saying, "Look what I caught," and you use live scope. If you caught them the old-fashioned way by chucking and winding, then I want to see it. But if you caught anything scoping, I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear about it. I could care less because you didn't put the time in the old-fashioned way, right, Stan?
Yeah, I'm not quite as adamant about the use of it as he is, but I'm getting there. Yeah. Anyway.
But anyway, that's a whole different topic.
Yeah, that's a whole other story.
Yeah. But don't get discouraged if you don't catch anything. Stan and I have been chasing muskies for the last little over a year.
Yep.
We're talking about the Shenandoah, the Upper James, and the New River. How many times have we been fishing? You think muskie fishing? 30?
Yeah, probably. I think it took me, 12 trips?
13.
12 or 13.
He caught his first muskie on his 13th
and then
trip.
caught 2 in one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't get discouraged when you go out fishing, you don't catch anything. You probably learn more about fishing when you don't catch them than when you do catch them because you're trying different things. And when you finally solve that puzzle, is the best feeling in the world.
Yes, it is.
All right, so now let's move to the lakes around here, Stan. We're talking Anna, Smith Mountain, Bugs Island, also Kerr,
Lake
Gaston. Those are your bigger lakes, and you got your smaller lakes like Diaskin, which is a New Kent, Little Creek, which is a New Kent, Briery, Sandy River, and Swift Creek. Okay, and I'm sure there's a bunch of others that we have not named here, but we're talking about lakes, not rivers now. Still talking pre-spawn, are we not?
Pre-spawn on just about all the species. The crappie bite right now at Bugs Island is phenomenal. I mean, these guys, they have 7 fish limit tournaments. I think in February it took 17 pounds to win, and even 17 pounds was second. And then I think just past last weekend it took 14 pounds, 7 fish limit. That is phenomenal.
They're probably scoping, so it really doesn't count.
Well, yeah, most of them probably are scoping.
Speaking of scoping, my buddy here fished a non-electronics bass tournament at Lake Anna a couple weeks ago, and him and his buddy won. And they caught how many pounds of fish, Stan?
24.
24 pounds, 5 bass, no electronics, no nothing, just a rod, a reel, a line, and a what?
And knowledge of the lake.
And knowledge in what? Spinnerbait, jerkbait? What do you catch on? Jigs?
Jerkbait.
Jerkbait. That's it.
But the crappie are moving shallow. I have a friend of mine that lives there, so I get good intel. He likes to chase crappie, he likes to chase the stripers. He doesn't do a whole lot with the bass, but and so you're going to see those weights starting to go down because they're going to spread out. So if I were chasing crappie right now at Bugs or Gaston, the big crappie, and I don't have scope, so the big crappie like to get up next to stumps, and they'll single themselves out, and another male will come in and they'll start to spawn. But I still think it's a little early for that. But you want to look for big stumps to catch the biggest crappie, in my experience. They will still go to the brush piles, but that's more of a, wintertime, and they're out in deeper water. They can find brush anywhere from 25 up to, say, 10 feet of water. But now it seems to me the backs of the tributaries, that's where I've done the best with the bigger crappie. Is individual fish will pick out a stump, and they can be very aggressive. Now, the same thing is going to go for largemouth. They like to get on these big stumps around rocks. The rocks are going to hold the heat, but they're all pre-spawn right now. But they are on the move. So, these wintertime fish that have been out in open water, they're moving. They're moving, islands are always good. I don't care where you go. Anna, Bugs Island, Lake Gaston, always seem to do very, very well around islands. Anyway, but pre-spawn, your spinnerbaits. I know I've said that about 100 times now, but I'm a big fan of the spinnerbait. It's probably my favorite lure. I can fish it all times of the year. But anyway, I like to slow crawl it along the bottom. I think I get bigger bites with that. If I got a bright sunny day and some wind, I'm going to burn it as fast as I can and keep it up in the water column because the fish tend to be more active and they'll run it down and pull the rod out of your hand. But docks hold heat, rocks hold heat, rocks with docks. Very, very good. Grass lines, I think that comes into play probably a little bit later in the month because that'll hold the heat. But basically, you're sensing the theme here. Anything that holds the heat, because that's going to attract the bait and that's going to attract the game fish. And so they got to feed up before the spawn, and that's usually going to occur in April. We just had a full moon, so you're probably looking at another 25, 26 days before another full moon, and that you're probably going to see a big wave of spawners and you will see some, I think, prior to that, just depending on the weather. It's all about the weather.
Shoot us a message if you want to know. If you don't know where to fish around here, shoot us a message. We have fished every one of these bodies. We fished the James, Shannon. We fished every one of these bodies of water. We fished Little Creek Reservoir, Diaskin, Briary, Sandy River, Smith Creek, Pamunkey, Matacam. I mean, all of it. And we fished all of them. Shenandoah, the New, the James. We fished them all. So if you need to know where to take your son, your daughter, your wife, where your wife wants to take her son, daughter, whatever. If you need some intel on where to put in and where to go, shoot us a message in the comment section,
or even the smaller local public lakes.
Yeah, there's a ton of those. You don't need a boat to catch fish in Virginia. Okay, in Central Virginia, you don't need a boat. Right in the city of Richmond, Bird Park. There's 3 lakes right there. You can fish there and catch fish. There's always brim and panfish to catch for the kids. Always. And you can catch them. So if you need any help with that, just let us know.
Drop us a comment.
Yep, and we will absolutely let you know where we would go, where we would park, where we would put in. On the Shenandoah, the Upper James, and the New would be to hire a guide, okay, and go on a raft, a drift boat,
or a
jet, and see what the terrain is like, because every quarter of a mile there's a set of class 1s, class 2s,
class 3s,
a class 3 mixed in every once in a while, but typically class 1s and class 2s that you can't go through unless you have a jet boat, a raft, or a kayak,
and a big set of cojones.
Yeah, you got to know what you're doing. So that would be my advice on those sections. There are sections of the river that you can put a John boat in with a regular motor.
Yep.
And we'll tell you where you can launch those. So there's a lot of opportunities around here, whether you're on the bank, in a kayak, in a boat, on the saltwater, the same thing. Saltwater, you kind of need to fish those creeks down there. You kind of need some kind of watercraft. Whether it's a kayak, you can fish out of a John boat, a small skiff.
And there's a lot of piers, but some of those piers.
Yeah, pier fishing is a whole different league.
It's a whole different league.
Yeah.
And getting back to the James, for me personally, there's 3 main stations that I'll check: water temperature and water level. And that'll be Buchanan for the upper river. It'll be Cartersville, which is pretty much about midway from the mountains to Richmond. And then I'll check the Richmond West Ham gauge, which is down right below the Huguenot Bridge. And I can judge a lot of that from those 3. So if it's fallen dramatically at Buchanan, and it could be coming up in Lynchburg or coming up at Cartersville. And so you want to, make your decision based upon what you're seeing these levels at.
There's been plenty of times this over the last year and a half that we've been bass fishing, muskie fishing up there, where we would look at the water levels, and the first time we started doing it, we didn't check, we didn't know, and we'd get there and go, this is not fishable.
Yep.
We just burned 4 hours running to Radford, or 3.5, whatever it is, and now we can't. We fished, but it was.
And then we packed up, went to another ramp.
Yeah.
Figured out where the cleanest water would be. We ended up going to Radford.
Yep.
And going up to the Clater Dam. Yeah. And he had one on. He had a muskie on.
The point is, check the water levels before you go.
Yep.
It takes 2 seconds to do it, and it'll save you a day of travel.
And all you gotta do is Google water levels on the New River or water levels on the James River, and you'll get these stations, along the way.
Yeah.
As you can tell, we really like fishing the Upper James,
the rivers,
and the New Rivers.
Yeah,
we really
and
like
Shenandoah. I mean, there's a lot of fishing in Shenandoah too. And it's all fairly new, at least for me anyway. I just started fishing these rivers last year, so I have not been to every one of these ramps, and there's so much water to cover. That's what makes it so much fun. It's just different targets, different sections of river. The scenery is ridiculous up in the mountains. You wouldn't even know you were 2.5 hours from Richmond.
Yep.
It's absolutely breathtaking, the scenery, which
and
helps.
Down on the Chickahominy, all the cypress trees, the Lower James.
The Chickahominy might be the
picturesque,
prettiest river in the East Coast.
Yep.
You'd think you were in Louisiana down on Chickahominy River, just right down here in New Kent. It's really, really pretty.
Big cypress trees, and they'll hold a lot of fish.
So that's it for the our first podcast. And any comments, whatever, good or bad, we got really thick skin. We chase muskie, so we're used to getting disappointed and getting our butts kicked more times than not. So don't be afraid to comment. We can take it. We appreciate y'all for tuning in,
He's Jim. I'm Stan.
Yeah, we're gonna do this every week.
This
We're
is
gonna
called
try. Yeah, it's called The Bite. We're gonna try to do this every week. And again, if you want us to concentrate on a certain species a little bit more, let us know, and we'll be more than happy to do it. Tight lines, everybody out there. Be safe on the water, and y'all enjoy yourselves out there. Thank y'all very much. Peace.